Welcome to episode number 86, Empowered Pregnancy After IVF, one that I am really personally passionate about sharing and that I think is really important for all women doing IVF because once you do get to the point in IVF where you conceive your baby, your journey certainly does not end there. So I'll start this episode with a personal story. As you probably know, our little rainbow baby was conceived via IVF. I was so excited to enroll in the midwifery group practice program, which is known to do its best in the hospital environment to support physiological birth with minimal intervention. It's known to be the best place in Cairns to give birth in the hospital system. So in my very first appointment with my assigned midwife, it was mentioned that considering my baby was conceived via IVF, might I mention with no other insight into my top-notch health status, that I would likely be up for increased growth scans and a term induction. Increased growth scans, how anxiety-inducing, and a term induction, meaning being induced at or before full-term pregnancy, which would basically eliminate my chance at having a physiological birth from the get-go, as an induction is an initial intervention that usually doesn't allow that hormonal process of birth to play out, and usually after which a cascade of further interventions will follow. Honestly, it felt like a big slap in the face, and my intuition was telling me to get out. All of these suggestions were based solely on the fact that we conceived our baby via IVF and not my actual pregnancy health status, being healthy and low risk. Intuitively, it felt wrong, but I also knew beyond my intuition that there was no evidence to support this. There is actually zero evidence to suggest that this was what I needed as an individual, except for risk mitigation and standard hospital procedure. And I will admit that I was a little blindsided by this comment initially. I completely trusted my fertility specialist throughout the entire IVF journey, so naturally, of course, I trusted and respected her opinion. Long story short, I never went back. I did lots of empowering reading and research about physiological birth, and I hired an incredible midwife to prepare for a home birth. This decision was a very intuitive one for myself, and I feel that it came easily because of my existing knowledge about and my strong belief in the female system and psyche and its capability. I understand that resisting the system or taking an alternative route after being in the system for so long, working towards the conception of your baby, will not come easily for a lot of people, and that's why I want to record this podcast. Conceiving a baby via IVF is a big deal. Whether it's your first or third or seventh cycle, the baby is a precious miracle, a blessing. Precious? Absolutely, but not fragile or weak. There's a big difference there. IVF is a medicalized process in which you, and I encourage all of my women to do this, completely surrender your fertility to the experts, to your specialist and embryologist. Of course, a holistic approach alongside that specialized support is up to you, but you allow them to do their incredible work, and it can feel so relieving to put that trust into their hands. So it makes sense to me that women would continue that trust and do absolutely anything that the doctors tell them to, because there can be a lot of internal fear around protecting this little baby that has taken so long to come, especially if a woman has experienced multiple or single pregnancy loss. The thing is that your IVF clinic or specialist specializes in getting you pregnant with amazing medical technology. They don't, however, specialize in ongoing pregnancy and birth beyond keeping that little embryo baby safe and secure for the first few weeks. There is a common implication that is made towards all women who conceive via IVF that either comes directly from the fertility clinic or from another medical specialist as soon as they read those little words, IVF conception, on your referral letter, that an IVF pregnancy and birth is high risk. It's automatically categorized. The understandably scary thing and things that can make this more of a fear-based suggestion is that if you deny this, an obstetrician or a midwife in the hospital system may tell you that this suggestion is made on the basis that an IVF baby is at an increased risk of things like stillbirth and other complications. I need you to know that this is fear-based. It is based on risk mitigation for the hospital, and it is not at all evidence-based. In fact, there are many outdated hospital procedures and policies around birth that are not evidence-based at all, or rather have been disproven by more recent evidence, but are still being carried out within the system. The evidence actually shows that risk of stillbirth at term, when a term induction is being recommended, is not affected by the type of conception. The fact that you conceived your baby via IVF alone does not automatically place your pregnancy in a high-risk category. I repeat, the fact that you conceived your baby via IVF alone does not make your pregnancy high risk. IVF babies are not weak babies. There was a strong embryo implanted into your strong uterine lining, and a healthy baby is being built by your incredibly strong and intelligent body. And there are two levels of intelligence here when it comes to the entire journey of pregnancy and birth, and that is the intelligence of your body and the intelligence of your baby. So IVF babies are not weak babies, and IVF women are not weak women. In fact, on more of a spiritual and emotional level, one may argue that women who have endured a fertility journey hold more strength and resilience than the average woman, and are even more equipped to have an empowering birth. That is, if we are not overtaken by fear and we continue to tune into our strong intuition. Of course, this is entirely your choice. You may decide to take the suggestions of increased growth scans and term induction, for example, and put your trust in the model of care that got you pregnant, and that is understandable. But please know that induction potentially and more than likely does lead to a cascade of further interventions like synthetic hormones, episiotomy, and cesarean, and you will be put at risk of birth trauma because statistically 1 in 3 women do experience birth trauma at the hands of obstetric care. And this all happens simply because the physiological process of birth has been interrupted from the very beginning, and that fear has potentially been instilled from your first hospital appointment, just like myself. And you can listen to last week's episode to learn all about the hormonal process of birth if you'd like to delve further into that. It doesn't have to be black and white. You can navigate the medicalized birth world while still making your own empowered choices. It's not home birth or the highway, yeah? You can say no to increased growth scans or automatic term induction and still opt to birth in a hospital environment by becoming really informed about the system, interventions, your rights, and autonomy over your own body. And this really has to start from a place of trust in your own body and baby. Ultimately, in this situation, you have to tune deeply into your intuition while also becoming really informed about the risks or lack thereof so that you can employ your own risk management system so that you're not at the hands of the risk mitigation system of the hospital. This is not going to be an easy path, my lord. It is not easy at all to question authority or disagree with or push back against your fertility specialist, your obstetrician, or your hospital midwife. It will likely be something that you're fighting for until the end and maybe even in your birth space. So that's something to consider. The thing that made it easy for me was removing myself from that situation by hiring an incredible private midwife who has no doubt in my pregnancy and my capability to birth physiologically and planning to birth at home. So I removed myself from the entire situation and any potential stress that would come with that. Birthing at home is a beautiful option. However, if you decide to take the path to birth within the hospital system, I would highly recommend seeking a birth doula or some form of external advocacy and support to be with you throughout your entire pregnancy and birth. Someone whose ideology is aligned with yours and someone who believes in you, someone who can advocate for you when you cannot advocate for yourself. In any instance, even when opting for increased growth scans and term induction or scheduling a cesarean, whatever your choice is, it is your choice. But an external birth advocate like a doula would be highly beneficial for you. You can have the empowered birth that you deserve after this long journey to meeting your baby. You are no less for it. Your body is not broken. You are not infertile, and you are not incapable of birthing your baby in your power. So I hope that this helps you to do what you need to do.